Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, Nintendo Wii U, Nintendo 3DS, and PC Steam versions. So, yeah, last time we actually did manage to tackle through buddy forms of the Emerald Cup, and so far I did that pretty good on that, even though there are some plenty of times though that the rubber banding AI can go, you know, all over the place sometimes, especially buddy forms of Graffiti City, but I digress. So today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be moving on to the fourth cup in this game, and that is the forms of the Arcade Cup. Now, just like in the forms of how it does in the last video, this is actually the second attempt of this recording session, by the way. Well, nothing to do with my commentary or anything like that. However, though, I've managed to just stumble across one major issue, and that is the forms of my game actually freezes, and as a result, or to be more accurate though, my game actually crashed. Which even then though, that as you can see, that you know that exclamation mark right above Age's icon right there no longer showed up, because obviously I did manage to select him on my first attempt on that particular recording session. Everything is all pretty good actually, all except by the forms of the third track, which is essentially Burning Depths, and whenever I got to the second lap though, oh my god, I've stumbled across a game crash, and as a result, I have to redo the entire process again, meaning about the fact that I also need to able to redo that recording session all over again. So that's really not that fun. But on the other hand though, I'm pretty sure that in the forms of that specific recording session right away, I'm hoping that it will go a lot more better this time around, and as a result, well, let's just get this thing over with, shall we? So anyways, for this racer choice, or in this case, the character choice for this video today, especially consists of buddy forms of the Arcade Cup. As you can see, I'm going to be selecting Aegis, because, you know, Sega spelled backwards, meaning Aegis spelled backwards in Sega. So, yeah, very interesting and compromised, which even then, I'm sure many of you fans already know about this, especially if you ever, like, you know, the certain Sega Mega Drive commercials back in the day. So, yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, here we go, on to the first track in the Arcade Cup, consists of Graveyard Geek, easily one of the more tougher tracks in the entire game for some people, but as long as you're able to actually get used to with the actual layouts of this track, it should be fun enough. But either way though, obviously this takes place in, you know, Cruisin' Mansion, in this case House of the Dead series, so because, you know, you get the idea for that environment right there, but even then, no, that's how I think it is, so anyway though, so yeah, as a result from that, I'm actually currently having my unlucky situations with my Xbox 360 console itself, specifically on the older models of the Xbox 360. Well, it still works fine enough, like it still powers on and everything like that, still reads discs and everything, but it's just a shame, whenever I manage to play the game for a long period of time, for whatever reason, my game attempts to crash every now and then, which as a result, when my game somehow just freezes, this means I have to keep on turning back, you know, just keep on like, turn it back on, turn it back off, and you know, you get the idea, which I have no idea why that's been happening, but either way though, yeah, that's just my, that's the reason why, how the fact that it might actually take a little bit of while to able to actually get back to this though, so, oh well though, but at least we're hoping we won't let that happen again for this session this time around, so anyways though, today was actually forms of the 8th of March in 2019, so there are quite a few things that's worth mentioning though. I've already mentioned about the forms of the virtual reality coming to the Nintendo Labo for the Nintendo Switch at some point in April the 12th, which it was a thing, as long as I able to finally realize about that, even though I really can't afford to able to pick that up, because obviously that I wasn't really well, it's a pretty cool concept for younger gamers out there, but ultimately though for me, I think it might be a waste of money for my part, because even then, well, aside from able to actually have a, you know, plentiful of the forms of those cardboard pieces to able to construct it with, so yeah, that's why I decided to pass it on that, so, and yeah, another thing's worth mentioning though is the fact that recently today, specifically on North America and the our country, but he forms of the UK country, or in this case, United Kingdom. Now, pursuing Australia versions as well. That recently today, that Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn for the Nintendo 3DS came out today. So, but I'll get to the actual first impressions of the game, or actually mention about my first impressions of the game, whenever until tomorrow, specifically in the weekend, actually, both Saturday and Sunday. That me and Pinkie Pie are going to be mentioning about the forms of my first impressions whenever I managed to play through Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn for the first time, for, you know, as far as the full game, because I've already experienced the demo version before, so even though that's to be expected that it might actually still runs 60 frames per second, but whenever I watched cutscenes on that version, it might actually runs like 30 frames per second, so that might be a little bit more of a tone down compared to the Wii version of the game, so yeah, I will consider for that matter, so... But, which is funny, because even then, that I think some toys already mentioned about this before, that originally though, that Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn was supposed to be new Nintendo 3DS exclusive, but it turns out it was changed into, well, obviously the regular 3DS, which I have no idea why, but even then, at the moment for right now, when it comes to new 3DS exclusive titles, which there are, well actually quite a few actually, which there are Minecraft, which is pretty obviously for this factor, because, you know, that game utilizes the dual analog stick types of gameplay and stuff. And there's also, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, and another one which is the forms of Fire Emblem Warriors, but which either way, that, you know, that was the only Nintendo Switch game I no longer have now, just because, well, to me, I feel like Hyrule Warriors is a better experience in my part, because either way, not to mention because there's going to be a lot of content here and there. I mean, sure, there are some replay values to it throughout, but for me, I couldn't even touch upon it for some reason, because even then, because I'm pretty sure it might be something to do with like some games I'm most likely into at this point, and especially noticeable with certain Let's Plays I'm most likely concentrate on. So yeah, you get the idea of what I was going to talk about for this point, so... But it's kind of a shame, because I'm really looking forward to able to try that game out, but it's just a shame I no longer have it now, just because, you know. So yeah, as you can see right there, that we've actually unlocked the new mod for ages right there, because obviously, that experience points that we've had right now actually borrows that from my first attempt on that recording session, so keep that in mind. So, anyway, so let's move on to the next track in, you know, in the forms of the Arcade Cup. So we have, I believe it's Address Lair from, you know, Golden Axe. So, potentially this particular cup itself is going to be based off on the Sega's arcade games, specifically House of the Dead and Golden Axe, and especially noticeable with, I'm pretty sure Burning Rangers was also by part of the arcade game or something, although let me know in the comments below if that will be truthful or not. So, anyways though, oh yeah, I forgot to mention about this actually with the forms of that specific coincidence, even compared to the forms of yesterday's video, that recently about the fact that Nintendo actually announced, well, to be more specifically, they did actually add something new on the Nintendo Switch online service, about the fact that with more selection of NES games is about to be coming out for, well, they actually announced once again 2 titles on the actual list, which they are Kid Icarus, and especially noticeable with I believe it's called Star Tropics, which I'm presuming that's what that game was actually called, which I haven't really played on it, or I haven't heard about it or anything, but, excuse me, I just ate 2 egg dogs, I do apologize for that. Because of that, though, I haven't really played that much of that Star Tropics game, because even then, because I haven't really paid attention to that whatsoever, so, but I digress. Those 2 games on the actual Nintendo Switch Online service is about to be releasing at some point in the 13th of March. So, naturally though, it can be a lot more potentials there. So, but the reason why I probably can't afford to able to be excited about, because again, they have to pay like real money in order to actually just you know, play some NES games and join an online membership or something like that. So that, you know, so that's about that. And I suppose I could bring up a final thing before we move on, is the fact that, well, we've only got ourselves about 8 more days to go until the, you know, the SXSW panel, specifically the Sonic the Hedgehog panel, which should be approaching it all by itself. So even then, I'm really looking forward to see how new stuff is going to be handled, especially by the forms of some more Sonic news and all that stuff. And, you know, we'll, I believe me and Pinkie Pie will mention about that at some point in the forms of Super Mario Party Let's Play for surely. And alongside with that is the fact that I'm pretty sure one thing I forgot to mention about this actually during the likes of in yesterday's video, that until next week, that the Captain Toad Treasure Tracker special episode DLC should be releasing about that time. So naturally, I believe Piglet might actually go back into the forms of that specific Let's Play of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on the Switch version. So naturally, that he would able to show off some special courses here and there. Well, it wasn't until when it gets to like, I don't know what day that he will able to start be doing the special episodes. Well, at least it all depends on the forms of the actual time of the uploading schedules at this point, because you know, I gotta be honest guys, that once again I do apologize by the forms of the uploading schedules for that time, because again, we weren't able to actually upload it normally when it comes to like different times and everything like that, specifically on UK's 6 o'clock to I would say 4 PM on the United States of America, whilst Japan's time is actually pretty different though. So because of that though, that it was practically 9th of March at the moment for Japan. I'm really sorry about this point, folks, because even then, there's not much else we can talk through aside from those tiny little details. So, but eventually, when it gets to the point, whenever we get to like the 16th of March or something like that, whenever when me and Pinkie Pie will go back into Super Mario Party in during the weekends, well, we weren't able to mention about more stuff here and there. So, because that's how we roll. So anyways though, yeah, let's just get to the forms of the actual ages as far as the actual character is concerned. Well, we already know, according to the forms of the actual award ceremony system, that he's basically a Dreamcast VMU character, which apparently though is actually pretty weird at the same time, because naturally, well, he doesn't have arms first of all, just like Goombas do, like, you know, that, well, specifically when me and Pinkie Pie will mention more details onto that, until when it gets to like tomorrow when we get back to Super Mario Party. So yeah, we'll mention more details on that. So the uniquest thing about the forms of ages as far as the actual character itself, that as you can see, that not only does it able to actually well, it still transforms into the forms of like the actual car, plane, and even boats especially. But what's unique about this racer compared to the rest of the other characters as a result for this game so far, well, it can do a lot of things. Like for instance, if you're in a car on Ages, it actually transforms into that one car based off from that Sega Saturn title, which I believe is actually called a Daytona USA, as far as the actual arcade racing title for the Sega Saturn. And as you can see on the actual boating section, well, there's something I really loved about this racer, is the fact that it actually transformed into the actual Sega Dreamcast controller, which what I've noticed is the fact that it might actually, depending on what region you lived in, like, I believe if you ever lived on the UK version of this game, and if you managed able to purchase this game in the UK, I'm pretty sure that the actual, the Dreamcast controller has a blue spiral on top of that. So naturally, it makes it represents the PAL version of the Dreamcast. And I believe if you ever played the American version or something like that, I would say you get yourselves your red spiral. But I really don't know about the Japanese version though, because I haven't really looked upon the Japanese version of this game anyway, because, you know, you get the idea for that point. So, anyways though, let's move on to the third track in the forms of the Arcade Cup. And this is that one track that I've seemed to actually come across into my crash on my, well, my game crashing buddy forms of like in my previous attempts. And, yeah, this is one I was talking about, because either way, I'm doing so well on my first attempt, but when you get to this turn right there, specifically, my game actually froze, or in this case, just crashed entirely. So as a result, then I have to keep on resetting my my Xbox 360 for that time. And I was like, oh, I'm really gonna have to be so sick of about this kind of stuff or anything like that. So yeah, that's the only coincidence, most likely. So yeah, that's as far as I can say about this here for the most part, though, guys. Other than, well, I'm really looking forward to able to try out Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn until today, because either way, that, you know, we're not going to do a Let's Play of that game, because obviously it plays exactly the same as the Wii version, and aside from adding some extras to the mix, especially with the new hard mode, which is of course Devilish mode, or anything like that, including 2 bonus mini games that is only exclusive to the 3DS. Why does it able to actually add a lot of offer on the 3DS rather than on new forms of like the Wii U and stuff like that? Which, that doesn't make any much more sense to me. But anyways, before I mention about more on that, as you can see, that since we are transforming into the Dreamcast controller, oh, by the way, we got ourselves an all-star move, baby. And for the all-star move for ages, basically we transform into ourselves the somewhat of an aircraft machine, or in this case the actual vehicle. And what that does is the fact that it sends us 3 of those aircraft vehicles at the same time, and then you can actually press the A button until you're able to actually launch these missiles at the opponents. So that one's actually very alright and stuff, but either way though, that's, you know, you get the idea for that point. Oh yeah, one thing I should mention about the forms of the Dreamcast controller model of the actual boat. Every time you actually, like, if you get crushed into a wall, and especially noticeable if you get owned by the actual items with computer players, the coolest thing about it is the fact that they actually did manage to reference by the forms of the actual Sega Dreamcast console itself, specifically 2 sound effects, which there are the Dreamcast VMU beeping sound, and especially noticeable with the Dreamcast disc spinning sound effect, which either way, that is very, very cool, especially because of how the fact that I still managed to have my Dreamcast even to this day, especially whenever I like playing, you know, Sonic Adventure 1 and especially Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Shuffle, even though despite the fact there was a Mario Party clone, and especially noticeable in certain Dreamcast games in the future. So, but I digress. Oh wow, Ralph is really good at catching up at this point. Was this like the previous cup again? Oh wait, I get the point there. But hopefully, at this point, I should be able to actually conquer everything at this point in time. But either way though, let's see what happens there. We'll see what happens there. And boom, we won, of course, for anything a Delta 4. Oh yeah, there are rare occasions where if you're most able to transform into the forms of like different vehicles, most notably the car, the boat, or essentially the airplane craft here and there. Basically, there are rare occasions where the announcer goes, Sega, just like in your nostalgic memories from the Genesis or the Mega Drive days. Specifically, if you ever played, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog games on the Mega Drive, which is very cool to me. Anyways, now let's move on to the final track in the forms of in the Arcade Cup, and thankfully, on the Burning Depths track is the fact that there are no game crashing, so at least I appreciate about that kinds of stuff, unlike in the forms of how it does it on my first attempt on that specific recording, which either way though, it does attempt to bother me though. So anyways though, let's move on to Race of Ages, the last main original track in the entire game, whilst until whenever we move on to the 5th and the final normal cup, including by the forms of you know, 5 mirror cups or anything like that. This will be by the forms of like well, you know, we might actually go race on to the different tracks past from you know, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. So, but there's only like 4 of them, which they are, you know, Sunshine Tour from Summit the Amigo, Shinbai Downtown from Jet Set Radio / Jet Grind Radio if you manage to play it on the North American version. Well, if you're at least expecting that. So, and also same applies for you know, Roulette Road in you know, Sonic the Hedgehog, and finally Egg Hanger from also from Sonic the Hedgehog. It looks like the majority of the time, especially by the forms of the 2 games at the moment, Sonic the Hedgehog always seems to have a lot of courses from that specific 2 games specifically, which kind of odd admittedly. I think it's because that Sonic's name was actually in the title, so I guess that makes it obvious. But until when it gets to, like, you know, Team Sonic Racing, that most of the actual tracks will definitely be Sonic themed. So yeah, that's as far as we can able to explain about this kind of stuff. So, but I digress. So, but again, that this track can go a little bit longer because of how the fact that, you know, it's basically kind of like Rainbow Road from the Mario Kart series, but the only noticeable difference is obviously the transforming system, which is of course the water section, or in this case the actual boats that we can use it for. Because what's odd is that unlike in you know, in Mario Kart 7, because in Mario Kart 7 has the best Rainbow Road track in the entire Mario Kart series in my opinion, because of how the fact that, well, you can able to actually explore the actual space, including the actual planet itself. Well, I personally found that Mario Kart 8's rendition of the Rainbow Road is actually it feels a bit least you know, less appealing, or in this case not so much great. Well, not awful or anything, it's just that, well, it's just there for the sake of, like, how uninspired that version of that Rainbow Road was. Even because of how the fact that it's made out of, you know, electric or anything like that, as opposed to glorify Rainbow Road. But either way though, that's besides the point. It looks like we're going on to the boat section again, which, even then though, that makes me wonder. Oh yeah, because of that, if you get in first place before everyone else do, basically that the actual, like, section has already been selected if you came, like, you know, first and all that stuff. So that's clearly obvious for that point. So as far as for my next character, especially noticeable with the final cup I was going to be doing, well, in terms of, like, the normal cups I'll be focusing on, I would still say that I will save Sonic for the definition of the final one. Well, not in the next video though, because either way though, I'll mention more on that until when me and Pinkie Pie were able to go back to Super Mario Party, because at the moment for the time that we need to be in a little bit more steady with the forms of, like, uploading stuff exponentially, and plus we need to able to finish most of the Let's Plays, because we keep on holding for those Let's Plays for quite a while, even though it's kind of like the same thing for how he does it on the YouTube channel called Cyberman65, where basically whenever he done his Let's Play of Kingdom Hearts Recoded back in 2011, well, he did manage to begin starting that Let's Play in 2011, but then after about 2 years of hiatus, well, basically he was able to go back into the forms of Recoded and proceeds to Agrabah. So I feel like it's kind of like the same thing for our channel, but except the fact that we're actually doing multitude of tasks. And I know for the fact that some people seem to complain about the fact that our videos at this point is actually in a jumbled mess, which hopefully it will fix that until whenever we get to next year in 2020, just because of how the fact that I have no idea why it's got my high pitch at the moment, but I digress. So anyways though, let's move on to the plane section right there. So hopefully we can able to dodge as many of those hazards as we could. So expecting that would able to make it happen. So anyways, let's dodge these and you know, just go for the actual roulette section right there. Oh, it's the Sega Dreamcast. I actually realized about that particular model right there. And that could be also applies for the Sega Saturn, and I believe there's also the Sega Master System, which I'm not sure where the Sega Mega Drive was, but even then though, that I wasn't paying that much attention, because I haven't really played that much in terms of my Mega Drive console, because of I already got all of the almost every single Sega Mega Drive compilations at this rate. Because of that, you know, for a better experience and all that stuff, especially by the forms of it, I can able to actually play those now on the HD consoles here and now, and yeah, that's all I can really think about. So there we go, folks. I'm pretty sure we are actually done with oh, we got another achievement, which is essentially rank S, which I'm assuming this might be something to do with the actual license. So that could be so much more of a good news, regrettably. So, yeah, and also, we've leveled up Aegis once again, but this time, Handling mod that we've actually unlocked, and we've got the Rank S driver's license. So, in addition with those 2 stickers, which is one is pretty obvious, Rank S, and also we did manage to select Aegis, specifically in Race of Aegis. So, that's pretty cool though, that is very good all in all. But yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, anyways though, so that's about it when it comes to the Arcade Cup itself. Actually, it's probably one of the longest cups in the game, just because of how the fact that the Race of Ages course is actually one of the more longer stages of the game, just because, well, you got to deal with the forms of like, multitude of like, segments worth noting for, like one section based off from the Rainbow Road, and the choice between either the plane section or the boat section. So, yeah, you get the idea for that point. So, Ralph once again, although Ralph this time he's actually in 3rd place, and Mimi, she's in 2nd place, and the Dreamcast VMU is in 1st place, or in this case, Aegis. So, it looks very funny though, whenever you see that Dreamcast VMU was actually moving, which looks very odd, but still. But anyways though, seems to say for this point folks, we got the endings on for this point right there, so join me next time on Let's Play Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Is that we're about to be moving on to the 5th and a final normal cup in the game, and that is of course the Classic Cup. So should be interesting, so see you guys then. Later fellas.